Hi everyone, it's Aga from EurekaCrystalBeads.com and I'm here with a super fun Christmas themed tutorial for you. But before I get started, just a quick reminder to check out the rest of our channel, and if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss any of our content. In this video, we're going to be making these candy cane holiday themed earrings that are super sparkly but also kind of fun and cute. And you can wear them with formal attire as well as just with casual clothes for your pre-Christmas party. I love how simple they are and how quick they are to whip up. You can basically make them in 20 or 30 minutes. Make sure you watch this video until the end because throughout it I'm going to include a little surprise. Now let me tell you all about the supplies you're going to need to make these. And the specific counts for BICONE beads that are needed will be included down in the description, so check that out if you want to know the exact numbers. So to make these super fun, super quick, and super easy earrings, here's what you're gonna need. First of all, because it's an earring, you're going to need some earring findings. Here I have an earring post with a forward-facing loop, as you can see. So I'm also going to need a jump ring for each earring. If you have an earring finding that has a side-facing loop, you're not going to need the extra jump ring. You can just attach the earring directly to your earring finding. So that's it when it comes to findings. When it comes to beads, let's start with crystals. You're going to need two colors, obviously, something in the neighborhood of white. Here I have ELITE Eureka Crystal AB2X, I do believe. So they are super sparkly, extra shiny, and I have 3mm and 4mm. When it comes to the second color, it has to be some sort of red. You can use scarlet, you can use cyan. Here I have light cyan, but any other red will do great as well. And in this case, I also have 3mm and 4mm. For seed beads, I put them out on those trusty triangle trays that I use. You can see them a little bit better here. I have 11 O's and I have 15 O's, and both Toho and Miyuki will work. I have Tohos and I'll be using Tohos, and these are Crystal or Crystal AB in 11O and 15O, so the slightly bigger ones, slightly smaller ones. And you can use anything that matches your crystals, and that's basically it when it comes to our beads. I'm going to be using a size 12 needle to sew it all together. And I'll pair it with 4-pound Fireline in the color Crystal. That's what I'm going to be using, but I think even a better choice would be 6-pound Fireline. You can even use 8-pound to make it extra stiff, because this is quite stiff. It's not floppy, but it's still bendable a little bit. So you can use 6-pound or 8-pound Fireline to make it a little bit more stiff. And I'll be starting with just over half a wingspan Fireline. That's with a margin, just to be sure. As far as tools are concerned, I'm also going to use scissors to cut off the excess thread. And you'll need some pliers if you're going to be using a jump ring to open and close it. Alright, I think that's it. Let's start beading. Alright, so for all intents and purposes, this is right angle weave. So if you know right angle weave, it's going to be super extra easy for you. But if you don't, I'll explain everything on the way anyway. So if you're a beginner, hi, it's going to be real fun. Alright, I'm starting, as I said, with just over half a wingspan of thread, which should be just about 33-34 inches. I'm gonna put that there just for convenience. With this tutorial comes an easy pattern in a PDF format for this, so don't forget to check out the description where you will find a link to that. Meanwhile, let's finally start. We're going to kick this off with a 3mm red bicone, 4mm crystal bicone, or white if you're using white, a 3mm crystal bicone, and a 4mm red bicone. So this is what you pick up, and I'm going to leave a bit of a tail to weave it in later on. Now I'm going to go through all of these beads again, and I'll also go through that first 3mm red bead. Just like that, I'm going to pull them all together. And now I want this Christmas cane pattern on there, right? So we're going to be adding sections that are going to be made of 4 beads in total. So this is the first bead of the next section. So what I need to do is I need to add 4 beads around it. And as you can see here, my thread is coming out towards the left. So I'll be adding a 4mm red bicone, a 3mm crystal bicone, and a 4mm crystal bicone. These are the 3 beads that I'm adding. And I'm gonna go right around this 3mm bead that my thread is coming out of, just like that. And for every section, this is a very small earring and a simple one as well. So we're going to reinforce each section or each segment. So as you can see, I went back up through the red bead, and now I'm going back through the 3mm crystal bead. And I'm gonna make the circle again, so I'm gonna go through all of those beads in the circle again, so that I end up in the same spot coming out of the 3mm crystal bead. Right, now I'm ready for my next section, which if you look in here, my thread is coming out towards the right. So what I need to add is 4mm crystal bead, 3mm red one, and 4mm red bicone. So that's what I'm adding, and I go right around that 3mm crystal bead. I'm gonna go back up through the 4mm crystal bicone, and I'll make another circle through all of those beads that I just added. Now my thread is coming out towards the left, and if I want a diagonal pattern, you can guess what I'm gonna need in here. So this is the start of the crystal stripe. So I start with 4mm crystal, 3mm crystal, and 4mm red bead, going right back through that last 3mm that I added. Back up, and I'll make another circle. Pro tip, especially if you're working with Bicones, like ELITE Bicones, they're made in Austria, they are machine cut, so their edges are pretty sharp. A good idea is to go through one bead at a time and always pull your thread in the direction that it's coming out of the bead. So don't pull at an angle, always try to put in the same direction that your thread is coming out of your bead. And basically you continue in this way until you reach the length that you want your cane to be. In my case, 3 4mm crystal beads and 2 red ones on this side, and I have 3 red 4mm beads on this side and 2 crystal ones, so that's what I want. So I'll continue adding these segments, which is basically just this one more now. This is the sequence. Alright, now at this point, I want my little cane to start bending to one side, and you don't have to worry about which side, because this is pretty much reversible, so you can make 2 of the same and then just hang one of them the other way on your earring finding, and you have a pair of symmetrical earrings that are turned different ways. So how do you make it bend? Well, you replace one of the 4mm bicones with 3mm bicones. So at this point, we're going to be adding 3 beads, 2 of which are going to be 3mm, so the smaller ones. Now we're going to be bending our cane towards the right. So I'm going to start with a 4mm crystal bead, then a 3mm crystal bead as I normally would do, but instead of a 4mm, I will add a 3mm red bead. And I'm gonna do just the exact same as before. And you can already sort of start noticing that this is kind of to the side now. So I'm going to keep doing that. For example, now I'm going to add another 3mm crystal over here. And then it's going to be 3mm red and 4mm red. Again, 4mm crystal, 3mm crystal, and 3mm red. Alright, 2 more, starting with 3mm crystal, 3mm red, and 4mm red. Finally, their last 3 beads which are 4mm crystal, 3mm crystal, and another 3mm, this time in red. We're done with the bicones for this. As you can see, it does have a little bit of a cane shape, but it's still floppy at this point. So let's add some shape, some definition with the seed beads. So I'm coming out of that 3mm bead like I normally would after each addition of each segment. But this time I'm gonna pick up a 15-0 and I'm gonna pass through this next red 3mm bead, placing the 15-0 kind of in the corner there. And now I'm going to, without adding anything, I'm going to go through the 3mm, the smaller bicones that I added to make the little curve. So I'm going to kind of solidify that curve by going through these beads with my thread. And if you pull your thread, you get that lovely cane curve here. And now as you reach that moment, when you stopped adding the 4mm, started adding the 3mm, right at this curve here, that's where you start adding 15-0s in between the beads and just go straight down. So I'm going through this 4mm bead here, straight down, and the 15-0 will kind of lodge itself in that space between the beads here. Another 15-0 and straight down through the next 4mm bead. Now when I reach the bottom of my cane, I also add a 15-0 in the corner, so I'm just passing through the 3mm bicone that's on the bottom. I'll add another one and pass through to the other side of my cane. And I'm gonna do the exact same on this side, but only up until the point that my shape curves. And so between this crystal 4mm bicone and this red one, I'm going to start adding the 11-0s. This is where I want to start adding the 11-0, so I picked up an 11-0 and I just passed through the next 4mm bead, just like so. Another one. And when you reach the end, I just add another 15-0 and go through that 3mm bicone at the end. And your cane is basically done. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to pass through that edge all over again to make it a little bit more stiff, but only until I've reached this 11-0 in here, because this is where I'll put my earring finding. Now, a fun and easy twist that is also the surprise of this video is adding a little fun shiny dangle at the end of the earring, because why not? And the way you do it, when you reach this point and go through this 15-0 at the end for the second time, you pick up 3 15-0s, then your crystal drop, 3 more 15-0s, and you just go back up on the other side. And that's what you get, a little dangle at the end of the earring. It's a super easy addition. To reinforce this, you can just go right back around this circle here, around this right angle weave segment. So through this 3mm bicone, then down this 4mm bicone, and then you go through the 15-0s and the drop again to make it a little bit more sturdy there. I'm going to take it out now because that's a surprise, and the original earrings are not going to include that. This is only for those who watch up until this point. So if you've watched up until this point, write us a comment saying I've watched until the crystal drops. Meanwhile, let's continue going around the edge. This is where you want to be to add your beaded loop to later attach the jump ring to it. If you are going in with an earring finding that has a side-facing loop, not like this one here, so one that doesn't need an extra jump ring, you can go ahead and add the earring finding as you go. I'm not gonna do that because I'm going to have to open this jump ring anyway, so I can add it on later. But basically what you do is you pick up 6 15-ohs, 3 15-ohs, then your earring finding 3 15-ohs if you're adding an earring finding right away. And you just go around this 11-oh and then just go through that loop 2 more times to make sure it's secure. And now what I'll do is I'll just go through some more beads, tie a knot, and weave in my tail. I'll do the exact same thing on the other side. I'll just tie a knot and weave in the tail. Now's the time to add my earring finding, so I'm just going to open that jump ring. Always remember to open your jump rings kind of front and back in a swiveling motion and not like try to force them open like this. So I got it open pretty wide. I'm going to put on my earring. And then I'll check with the other one. Yeah, the other one is the same way. So what I need to do is I need to put this one backwards so that it faces the other way now. Close it up. And here are my earrings. Aren't they absolutely adorable, but also kind of classy? Like if you could choose and make a cute pair of earrings that was also like shiny and sparkly and good for a dress, like a Christmas cocktail party or something like that, these will be perfect. You will find all of the necessary materials to create earrings like these at EurekaCrystalBeads.com. As I mentioned, you will also find a link to the pattern for these in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. Happy holidays and see you in the next video. Bye!